I made a video a couple of years ago about installing Home Assistant on Intel Macs, and things have really moved on a lot since then. That video is still valid for Intel Macs, even if some of the links and screens shown in the video are a bit out of date. I try and keep the details in the description up to date though. But this video is about running Home Assistant on the newer Apple Silicon Macs, so those with an M processor like the M4, which is the latest at the time of this recording. It's a simple process, I promise you, so keep watching and you'll see just how easy it is. For this tutorial, we're going to use a piece of software called UTM. Now, UTM is a virtualization application, a bit like VMware or Parallels, but it's free and open source. As a side note here, you can pay for UTM if you want to, and install it from the official App Store on your Mac. It's not expensive and the fee is considered a donation towards the project, and as a benefit you get automatic updates too. But it is available for free and I'll show you how to get that in a bit. UTM is basically a nice user interface which wraps another virtualization platform called QEMU. Now, QEMU is a pretty powerful piece of software with a lot of features, but it is pretty much all managed using the command line. For some people that's fine, but I would guess the majority of users just want to be able to click a few obvious buttons on the screen and end up with a virtual machine running your operating system of choice. In this case, I'm talking about running Home Assistant. UTM simplifies QEMU for Mac users, but it does come at the cost of losing some functionality. For example, one of the biggest missing features in UTM is the ability to create snapshots of your virtual machines. These can be very handy when you are playing around with new features or updates in Home Assistant. You could take a snapshot, make your changes, and if it went wrong, you can roll back to the snapshot as if nothing had happened. Well, I have a sort of workaround for that, which I'll show you near the end. So let's start by downloading UTM, and we do that by visiting mac.getutm.app, and you'll see in the middle of the screen there is a download button, so I'm going to click on that and it's downloading here. Once it's done, let's double click on that. And this is going to get quite annoying because everything is popping up on my other monitor that I'm not recording on. So apologies in advance, I'm going to drag in a lot of stuff across, but here it is. I'm going to drag UTM over to applications, and there we go, there's a little sound that tells me it's installed. So now I'm going to run UTM. Here we go, and yes, it is downloaded from the internet, so I'm sure I want to open it. Let me drag that into here, and here is the main page for UTM. Next, we need to download a suitable image for Home Assistant from the Home Assistant GitHub page. So don't worry, I will put a link to this down in the description, but it's github.com/home-assistant/operating-system. Now we need to scroll down to this releases section here and click on that. And you'll see the latest release, well, at the time of recording it's Home Assistant OS 15.0. So we scroll down a little bit until we find the assets section. Right, now in here we are looking for the architecture called AArch64, which is the one that's going to be compatible with our Apple Silicon Mac. Now this one here is a QCOW2 file, AArch64, and that's the one we want to get. So we're going to click on that and download that. And you should see it's downloading here. Right, now that's finished, let's view that in the folder. Oh, I don't need that one anymore, and I need to drag my downloads folder to the screen here. Now at the moment it is a .xz file, and we need to expand that using the archive utility, which should be the default option. And when that's expanded, you should end up with just a QCOW2 file. There we go, that's all expanded. So we can actually delete the XZ file now because we don't need that anymore. I don't need utm.dmg either, so I'll get rid of that. All we need is this QCOW2 file. So back over in UTM then, we're going to click on this big create a new virtual machine, and we're going to virtualize, not emulate. We click on that there. We're going to choose other, and the boot device we're going to select as none because we don't actually want to boot from a CD or a floppy disk. click on continue. Now for the memory, you can get away with 2 gig of RAM, which would be 2048. I think the default there was 4 gig of RAM. That would be fine as well. It all depends on what you're planning on doing it, but I wouldn't recommend going any less than 2 gigabytes. For CPU cores, give it 2 and then click on continue. It's going to ask you about the size of the drive. It really doesn't matter. You're going to delete this anyway, so just accept the default and click on continue. Shared directories, we're not going to do any in this tutorial, but it is possible to share local drives on your Mac with the Home Assistant operating system if you wanted to, but just click on continue here anyway. Now we've got to name the virtual machine. I'm going to call it Home Assistant STTG Demo, and I want to open the VM settings once it's finished. So now I'm going to click on save and it should open up the settings. Okay, the first thing in the settings to check is over in System, and you just need to make sure that the architecture is ARM64 AArch64, and it should fill in the latest version of QEMU sort of virtual machine definition here. You've got your 2 cores there, that's perfect. Now go over to the QEMU tab and you need to just make sure that this Wi-Fi boot tick box is ticked. If it's not, make sure it's ticked and then click on save. Now it's a bit annoying, if you save anything it will get rid of the settings, so you have to then go back in and edit it. But it's quite important that every time you make a change you save it, because sometimes if you move on to another tab on the left hand side and you haven't saved the previous one, it'll just ignore whatever you change. So make sure you save after each change. Next we need to go down to display and we have to change the emulated display card to this one here, VirtIO-GPU-PCI. So change it to that and click on save, and then go back into your settings. Now down to the network section, and we need to change network mode from shared network to bridged, and you get a whole load of other settings appear. Just need to make sure this emulated network card is VirtIO-Net-PCI, and then you can click on save and we'll go back into the settings again. Okay, now for the fun part, we go all the way down to these drives here, and this VirtIO drive, we need to click on that and we're going to delete it. Yes, we are sure. And of course, we're going to save and then go back into the settings. So now we're going to add a new drive by going down to this drive section here, clicking on new and clicking on import. And you'll see here it's conveniently opened up my downloads folder already, and we can see that QCOW2 file that we downloaded earlier is there ready to select. So choose that and click on open. And then for a final time, click on save. And now you're ready to start the virtual machine, and we do that just by clicking on the little play button there. So I'll drag this into view and it should start booting. So I'm going to show you the whole boot process, so you'll get that little display error briefly, and then it should run through all of this stuff. Normally I'd sort of speed this up and cut it out the video, but I think it's quite important to show you how long it should take. It's not that long. And any second now we should get some information to tell us what the IP address of Home Assistant is. Doesn't normally take too long. There we go. Right, okay. Okay, so my mouse pointer isn't working inside of that little black box on the screen, so I will put an arrow on the screen pointing at the IP address that you need to write down. So you'll see there on my screen it says 192.168.1.191, and that's what I need to make a note of for the next step. So jump on over to your web browser and type into the address bar http:// then your IP address, which I've filled in there, then a colon 8123, which is the port number to locally access Home Assistant on. Then press enter and you should see, there we go, the welcome screen for Home Assistant. Now we're going to run through the usual default installation here. So I'm just going to create my smart home, my username STTG, and my super secret password that isn't at all the word password, just for this test. Create account. Don't want to save the password. As usual, I'm going to pretend I'm in Amsterdam. It's a lovely city. And the country, I'm going to type in United Kingdom. And next. Let's give them some analytics this time. And next. and finish. Now I should be able to log in, and I bet it finds a whole bunch of devices like my Sonos speakers and stuff, and my lights in the background. Actually, doesn't that work by default if I just change that to segments? There you go, see, Home Assistant is working because it's changing my lights in the background. Let's put them back. There we go, that was easy, I told you. So I mentioned before that UTM can't yet take snapshots of VMs. Now you can of course choose to run something like VMware Fusion on your Mac if you wanted to, because that is free now too. There is a VMDK file on the same releases page as the QCOW file was, and you can download the AArch64 version, which will work in VMware Fusion if you wanted to go down that route. But I'm trying to keep things a little more open source here by using UTM and supporting that project instead. And until they add support for snapshots to it, then the workaround is to clone your virtual machine instead. So to start making the clone, we first of all have to shut down the running operating system. So if Home Assistant is running, you will need to power it off. So I'm going to click on the little power icon there and say OK. Now I can close that down, and we have the little Home Assistant, UTM window here. Now to clone a virtual machine, it is super easy. You just right click on it and click on clone, and it will say, do you want to duplicate this VM and all its data? Yes, I do. You get a new version there, and now you can boot up that version instead, and hopefully once it's booted up it should have the exact same operating system and IP address and everything. It should be exactly where you left off. So yeah, look, it's even got the same IP address, 192.168.1.191. Now, it is very important that you don't start both the old one and the new one at the same time. Otherwise, the two will conflict on your network, so you won't really know which one you're working with. So you're best off just booting up one at a time. Once you're happy with this one, you can just go into here and delete the old one. Or you can keep the old one as a backup if you want to. Anyway, I hope that you found this useful. If you did, then please give the video a like and subscribe for free to the channel to see more from me. These amazing people here are my channel members and patrons, so a massive thank you to them. If you'd like to support the channel by becoming a member or a patron, then please check out the links down in the description. And in return, you'll get early access to my videos and some bonus content too. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.